Does that got anything to do with me or you? Here's the criminal code. Every one person and owner and similar expressions include Her Majesty in an organization. Okay, so what's that got to do with living souls? A municipality. This one's actually probably correct. And that's why you don't want to be in a city. Okay? You live on the land of Texas. You know, what I would say is near Dallas or near Garland, right? Not in the city. And there's words, and we're going to talk about that, how they do words to get you. Anyways, a municipality includes a corporation of a city, town, county, township, parish, or other territorial or local subdivision or province, the inhabitants of which are incorporated or are entitled to hold property collectively for a public purpose. So that's clearly in the matrix. Driver, Traffic Safety Act of Alberta. Driver means a person who's driving. Okay? Well, if you're not a person, then you're not a driver. Right? This is Section 14 of the Interpretation Act of Alberta. No enactment is binding on Her Majesty or affects Her Majesty's rights or prerogatives. Okay, remember those words. Prerogatives. This is the BC Interpretation Act. A person includes a corporation, partnership, party, or other personal or legal representatives of a person. Right? I mean, what's that got to do with living souls? And this is the Canada Interpretation Act, and it talks about rights and prerogatives again. BC Motor Vehicle Act. Owner includes a person. You go to Texas statutes and the same thing. An owner is a person. You don't want to be an owner. I'm not an owner. I'm just using this thing. Driver. You know, these lawyers lay awake at night trying to figure out ways to hide this stuff. And so I had trouble finding out what a driver was under the BC Motor Vehicle Act. And says a driver is a person who holds a driver's license and includes any such person. Okay, so what's that got to do with living souls? Ontario, in every act and regulation, person includes a corporation. So, okay, what's that got to do with people?
In Black's Law 1, 2, 3, and 4, the definition of a driver is an employee.
Yeah, there you go. They're doing it for hire.
And that's what it includes. It's been going over. It
Yeah.
includes that
Yeah.
excludes us.
Right, absolutely, and that's traditionally how it is. As a matter of fact, if you look, and we're going to talk about that in Title 18, United States Code, Section 31, it defines a motor vehicle as every contrivance propelled or drawn by a mechanical power and used for commercial purposes. Okay, if you're not involved in commerce, you don't have a motor vehicle, and yet they call it the Motor Vehicle Division, Texas. Okay. Or in Arizona, it's the Motor Vehicle Division, Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. I mean, it's all motor vehicles. That's right. No act or regulation binds Her Majesty or prerogatives. Again, this is Ontario Legislation Act. Ontario Highway Traffic Act. A driver means a person. And I found this is typical of every place I've looked at for under the utilities. Okay, it says if any person supplied with any public utility neglects to pay rent, and what it goes on to describe is that they can disconnect the service for a person. Okay, but they don't have authority to disconnect you if you're not a person. And there's a guy in Edmonton that I know that what he does is he'll get the utilities right, and then they'll send the bill to a postal code or a zip code here, right, and all block capital letters. And he'll write on it, refuse for fraud, and send it back to him. And then he'll call him up immediately and say, you know, I want to pay the bill, but I have a religious objection to being accused of being a corporation. That's an affront to God. And so I can't accept the mail as long as it's addressed that way. If you want to send it back to me with upper and lower case and no postal code or zip code, I'll be more than happy. I want to pay the bill. Please send it back to me like that, and I'll pay your bill. And they never do. Next month, they get it to them, all block capital letters, postal code again, refuse for fraud, calls them up. 16 months later, he's still got the service. And he has to move. So he's getting it disconnected, right? They forgive him a bill. So there's two things operating here. Think about it. You're offering to pay, right? And so if you offer to pay and they don't accept it, then it's discharged, right? And number two is that they don't have any authority to disconnect you. And all the statutes are like this. And the Indians, you know Indians are a person? It's all commerce. It's all commerce. You know, I think what they did, I think that they went and sent people out to sell guns to the Indians so the Indians would make war on everybody, because then they'd have an excuse to crush them. And I think they sent people out to kill all the buffalo to take away their means of subsisting. I think that's exactly what they did, so they'd force them that they couldn't live off the land anymore. Anyways, I guess we're about time to wrap it up. Okay. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue. This is taken from Title I, United States Code, Section 1, and it's interesting to note that Title I is positive law. The words person and whoever include corporations, companies, associations, firms, partnerships, societies, joint stock companies, as well as individuals. So, what's an individual? An individual is a fictitious entity, isn't it? It's one of those unincorporated corporations that's found in Title 15, United States Code, Section 44. Anyways, this is the Texas Transportation Code. Person means an individual, firm, partnership, association, or corporation. So, individual is still a fictitious entity. Texas Government Code. Person includes a corporation, organization, government or governmental subdivision or agency, business trust, estate trust, partnership, association, or any other legal entity. So what's that got to do with living souls? Owner, Texas Transportation Code, means as used in reference to a vehicle, a person who drives, okay? Oh, and that operator. I'm sorry, that's operator. So again, that's a person. Police officer means an officer authorized to direct traffic or arrest persons. So they don't have any authority to arrest living souls. This is stuff I'm putting in my most recent ones. Those aren't in those ones there. State, when referring to a part of the United States, includes any state, district, commonwealth, territory, insular possession of the United States, and any area subject to the legislative authority of the United States. Well, this is in the Texas Government Code, okay? So that's telling me that Texas is not a state. Think about that. Texas is not a state as far as that's... Now, the state of Texas is, but the land of Texas isn't. You think about that, okay? Texas, the Republic of Texas, the state of Texas is a corporation, municipal corporation, right? And so, you know, if you look at Title IV, okay, United States Code, they talk about how the legislature is supposed to be set up. Okay, it talks about it lays out the legislatures, how they're all set up, and Title IV is also how the flag is displayed. Okay, it talks about all that stuff in Title IV, and again, so the state of Texas, if the United States Code can tell the state of Texas what to do, well then the state of Texas is a corporation, right? That's nothing to do with we the people, and we're gonna there's some court cases that are gonna talk about that, okay? That we're gonna see. Anyways, so the state, that's a corporation that they're talking about there, and that has nothing to do with we the people. United States includes a department, bureau, or other agency of the United States. Yeah, okay. State has the meaning assigned to it in Section 31105, Government Code, and includes a province of Canada. Well, I can show you in Canadian statutes, the province of Canada is Northwest Territories, Yukon Territories, and none of it. The province of Canada is not Alberta or Saskatchewan or any of the other so-called, what we've always thought to be 10 provinces in Canada. Those aren't provinces of Canada. You look in their own Interpretation Act and it says that. So the point is you got to understand where it begins and where it ends, okay? And this is all talking about commerce. This is all fictions, okay? If you're in the state of Texas, then you're a piece of property, you're a slave, you're a person, you're all of that stuff, okay? The key is not to be a person, and I'm not in the state of Texas, I'm on the land of Texas. That's why I put all my documents. I'm an inhabitant of the land of Texas. And there's a difference. You can be on the land of Texas and not in the state of Texas. This is the Magna Carta. And based on the Magna Carta, that you can presume they know the law. Either that or their superiors have perjured their oath of office. Think about that. A lot of Canadians don't get this. We will appoint as justices, constables, sheriffs, bailiffs, only as such as know the law in the realm and mean to observe it well. That means we can presume in Canada, you can presume they know the law. Now there's U.S. court cases that talk about that as well. But here it is in the Magna Carta. Those people that wrote that Magna Carta knew what they were doing. Yes?
A way that I kind of think about it, the person or illustration of that would be like if you were looking into a mirror, the reflection being fictitious. It can't move, act, think, or go to the men's room or anything like that. So it's like you're the real, it's the fiction. I think that's a good way for someone to like be able to distinguish between the two.
Yeah, it's basically someone was commenting about the fact that the person is looking in the mirror and it's a fictitious entity, and that's right. It's not a living soul. A person, by definition, is a fictitious entity. It's an actor, and it's not a living soul. Anyways, okay, they have no right to charge a fee under the Magna Carta. To none will we sell, to none will we refuse or delay right or justice. And I use that in the when I gone to the Supreme Court. As a matter of fact, in all my court cases, I don't ever pay filing fees, and I've got it down pretty good. Matter of fact, they used to deny me my motion until I brought up the fact that I have lawful money and I have absolute title to land, and after that they've accepted it every time. I used to, because there's a Supreme Court case that says that income is corporate profits, and I said I'm not a corporation. But one of the things I tell them in my paperwork is that the First Amendment says the government shall not abridge the right to petition the government for redress of grievances, right? And I always call it a petition, right? And so that's one of the arguments, is that you have no right in the Supreme Court. I tell them every time, you have no right to turn this case away, and you have no right to charge me any fees. And I tell them that, number one, the First Amendment says that you cannot abridge the right to petition the government for redress of grievances, and number two, I'm not a corporation, and number three, I have real money, I got gold or silver coin, and number four, I'm not a person, and number five, I have absolute title to land, which makes me equivalent to a nation. Yes, did you have something?
Just one real quick question. So, a common law government, or the jure government operating, you can't charge a fee for the actual justice, the hearing of justice itself. But if, let's say, a common law government, like the Republic of Texas, needs to process the paperwork, or there's a paperwork cost involved, they could theoretically charge a small fee for the paperwork in lawful money, correct? And that came out longer than I meant for it to. I'm sorry.
You're talking about the Republic of Texas and charging fees. The Magna Carta doesn't apply to the Republic of Texas, really. It brings in common law into England. And if I remember right, Republic of Texas, they rebelled from Spain.
Right.
So, I don't know what's the Constitution say is what my question would be. But that would be what my question would be, is what's the Constitution say, because the U.S. Constitution doesn't apply to the Republic of Texas either. Okay, so you guys decide what you're going to do. I don't have a problem paying for a service, and if I have to pay to effect service, and I've even told, because I brought some actions in the Republic of Texas, and I told them that I don't mind effecting service. I mean, so I was prepared to pay someone to effect service, because if I bring an indictment, I file criminal complaints against every member of the Texas legislature and the Texas Senate.